So this is our second lecture. Right. So we have discussed, I think, up to this point. So we have discussed about that how the internet, what is the network, and then how the internet is different from a small network. So internet is basically a network of, or it's an interconnection of various networks. So that in abstract way we have discussed in the first class, right? Now, so then what is end host, and then how the what are the different types of links that we have discussed. So now we are coming to the this network core part. So I think this is the place where we have left the first lecture. So in the network core, so core is, you can see here, let me start this. So core, you can see here, these are the routers. So this is basically a core. So core is the mess of interconnected routers. And what is router? Router is a basic forwarding or switching device. So right now I'm saying that, okay, say router. Later we will distinguish between the different types of switching and the forwarding devices, right? So now we understood the structure that, okay, we have in a core network, we have a set of routers which are interconnected, and then at the edge of the network, the end host can be connected. I think some of you's microphone is on, so please switch it off. Okay. Okay. So then the fundamental question is, then how is the data transferred through the network? So, or we can say how this core is built, how to build the core. So there are two methods to build the core. One is the circuit switching, and another is the packet switching. So now we'll understand what is the circuit switching. So circuit switching means basically a dedicated circuit for the data transfer. So before you can say start transmitting the data, you can say the resources are reserved, a circuit is established between the sender and the receiver. So the example for this is in a telephone network. So you make a mobile call or the landline telephone, then you first dial the number, and when the ring is going on, that time that the connection is basically established. A circuit is uh, established between the source and the sender and the receiver, right? And so what does it mean? That means the resources are one channel is you can say reserved for that particular call. Now how much means capacity channel will be stored, that depends upon application to application. In telephony network, it depends upon how much band we say, I'm using a term bandwidth. So how much bandwidth is required for the audio communication. So then for another types of connections or the data transfer, the different amount of you can say is required, right? So we will talk later about that, what exactly that resource is, and what are the values for the different applications. But right now we can understand that it is some resources are reserved. So now no one else can use that channel. That's the idea. So means it can give a some kind of a better kind of a good quality of service in terms of, because on that channel only that communication will go, right? There is no other communication will interfere in that. So that's it. So first we'll see that uh, in the circuit switching, what are the other methods? I mean, so what are the different you can say variant of the circuit switching itself? So the circuit switching can be done in two ways. One is a frequency division multiplexing. It is called as a FDM. Okay. And other is the time division multiplexing. It is called as a TDM. Right. So as I said, there's a dedicated resources are reserved. So the no sharing is there. Only that call or that data will be transferred with respect to that the reservation have been made, right? Or it gives a kind of a guaranteed performance because of the reservation. Once before going somewhere, if you reserve a resource, that means then it's a kind of a guarantee. And another distinguished feature from the packet switching is that will come later. There we'll see that a call setup is required in that case. When I said no, that a circuit is established, means there are some special packets, you can say, travel in the network, and then they reserve that channel. So okay, that phase is called as a call setup, when or the reservation channel reservation process when starts or when it is going on. So there is some time which is required to set up the channel, and after that only the data can be transmitted. So you cannot immediately transfer the data. So that's a one distinguished feature from the packet switching. We'll see in a packet switching, this call setup time is not required. Whenever you have some data, you can immediately send without waiting for any call setup, which happens in your internet. Means internet, once you're connected, means your network connectivity is there. Anytime you can start an application and your data will immediately start transmitting. Okay, so internet is based on the packet switch network. Okay, so now we'll see that what are there are two ways, as I said, the FDM and TDM. So how the link bandwidth is divided into the you can say pieces bit among the users. So there are two methods in circuit switching. So one is, so you have basically you know that for the transmitting the signal, you say you have a, on some frequency it will go, right? So signal have the frequency. In some range, so any communication allows the allows the data transmission or the signal transmission in some frequency range, right? So that frequency range, okay, now what range is there? So for different kind of a communication, that different range is there. For a Wi-Fi, you know, it's a 4.5 gigahertz, and there is another band, frequency band is there in that is 2.5 gigahertz, right? So there are different you can say frequency bands are there. You might have heard about that uh, this the government auction this um, these communication bands to the vendors for, so that they can use that communication band and for their communication services, right? So 3G, 4G, and all these things. So they sell that bandwidth basically, right? So in that frequency, whatever the frequency band is there, in circuit switching, using if FDM technology is used, then it's a frequency division multiplexing, as it says that frequency is divided among the users, right? So in this case, in this example, you can see there are 4 users are there, right? So let us say I'm taking one example of 4 users. It can be for n number of users, depends upon the total band is, let us say total band is, I'm just taking one example of 4 Mbps, right? So this, or in case in terms of frequency, I can say it's a 4, suppose it's a 4 megahertz. 4 megahertz is a width of the this frequency band. So if I divide equally among 4 users, so 1 megahertz each you can say user is getting. So now 4 users simultaneously they can send the data, right? Now how it is decided, okay, 1 megahertz, or it should be 100 kilohertz, or maybe 50 kilohertz, or how it is decided. So that depends upon the application actually. What is the minimum requirement of the application, right? So for example, for audio communication, it is a 4 kilohertz frequency band is sufficient for audio communication. And for video communication, the more frequency band is required, right? So in similar in that way, that is decided that what is the sufficient uh, frequency band is required for. So one physical, you can say, channel may have larger bandwidth available, but for individual communication, uh, the lesser bandwidth is lesser, you can say, frequency band is required. So accordingly, it is divided into among the number of users. So these many simultaneous users can use. So in this case, 4 users can simultaneously transmit, but their maximum rate is confined with respect to the 1 megahertz, right? So that's a one way. Another way is that, okay, in place of dividing the frequency, we can divide with respect to the time. So so suppose in case of 4 users, so one round of transmission, you can say this is one round of transmission, and so this is round 1, then this is round 2, then this is round 3, and so on. So in each round of transmission, every user is getting one time slot, right? And say for this is for the first user, this is for second user, this is for third user, this is fourth user, right? So in this case, we have divided among the 4. We can increase as the number of users are more, then we can make one round will be larger. So now in this kind of communication, what is happening? Every user is getting one time slot in each round, and in that time slot it can use the entire 4 megahertz bandwidth. In this case, if you assume that, okay, this is a 4 megahertz total channel capacity, so entire bandwidth will be used, but the time slot will be let us say whatever the total 1 unit time is there, so 1/4 time first user will get, second 1/4 second, and then third 1/4 and fourth, so like that it will be there, right? So how the FDM and TDM are different? So TDM means allows the so what is the additional thing in the TDM is the TDM uh, all the nodes, suppose this is a channel which is divided based on the time between these two routers R1 and R2, right? So here let us say sender is there, and somewhere here let us say receiver is there. So here the senders are connected. So basically one sender, second sender, third sender, and fourth sender. And like that here also I may have a 4, you can say receivers are there. Now, so this slot time means in each round there is a fixed slot time. So first user data will go, then second user. So initially every user knows that, okay, so where their time slot starts, right? So the synchronization is required among all the devices. So it's very means now how to the physical clock synchronization is a almost impossible kind of thing. So the different mechanisms are used, right? But let us assume that, okay, in some way the synchronization is achieved, and that is must for that. Otherwise, if according to this device, the first slot start here at time scale, and according to this device, the first slot start with slight delay, right, with respect to this, then it will be a problem. If the clocks are not synchronized, then the data will be misinterpreted in that case. So that's a challenge in the TDM networks. But in FDM, the only challenge is that, okay, these different frequency bands needs to be identified at the receiver, right? So usually in practical, what happen? These frequency bands are separated by some gap, right? So means there is a small gap is there, and how much gap this gap is basically waste, means because that the bandwidth, or you can say that the frequency range which is considered for the gap, that frequency range is not used for the transmission because that's a wasted actually. But this waste is can be reduced by improving the receiver's capability. If receiver can detect means the two transmissions which are separated by, let us say, maybe just 10 frequency, then okay, fine, then your band requirement is just 10. But if the receivers cannot distinguish between the two communication which are separated by 10 frequency, then you need to increase that band. So let us say the receiver capability is, okay, minimum 50 you can say a minimum 50 frequency, 50 hertz per second, or 50 hertz of gap is required, then you need to that 50 hertz needs to be put in a gap, and that is basically that will be subtracted from your total 4 megahertz. So each user will get less than 1 megahertz in that case, right? So So now just to understand that in circuit switching, how what means how the data transfer happens. So for that we'll do one example. So say for how long does it take to send a, suppose I have a file of 40,000 bits, right? So file size is 40,000 bits, and that is from host A to host B. So let us say this is a host A and this is somewhere is a host B, and so between host A and host B, okay, they are connected maybe. So this, okay, let me write here host B, host A. So they are connected at a edge of the network, and this is the network core is there, and network core have multiple routers. I'm just drawing few of them to show the communication between A and B. So these channels, all channels are 1.536 Mbps, all links, okay, all physical links, so capacity of 1.53 Mbps. So M stand for the megabits per second, means if I say 1.536 means it's a bandwidth, it represents the link's bandwidth. So when we link capacity, we show in terms of the so we can show in the two term. One is the in kilohertz, megahertz, gigahertz, right? And the another way we can say is a kilobits per second, megabits per second. So when we say signal transmission, that is with respect to the how many signals per second you can transmit. Then we say kilohertz, megahertz, gigahertz. And when you say how many bits per second can be transmitted, then we'll say kbps, kilobits per second, megabits per second. So exactly kilohertz doesn't mean the kilobits per second. So signal, when we say analog to digital conversion will do, you might have studied in some of your course, analog to digital. So exactly it is not one-to-one mapping. So you may have a how many bits per signal, how many bits you can send it. So that uh, so there we require some kind of a encoding schemes. We will do this thing in our very last portion of our course, means when we'll reach to the physical layer. So different encoding schemes are used, which are used to convert the analog signal to digital signal. Okay, because in internet we use the digital communication. So analog to digital conversion is required. For that we use different encoding scheme, data encoding scheme. So that basically gives me the notion of from megahertz to kind of a megahertz to megabits per second or kilobits per second, whatever. So for our purpose here, we'll say that okay, we will represent the link capacity in terms of the Mbps, kbps in these terms, and which we call as a bandwidth. Basically, this represents the bandwidth of the link. So bandwidth means how many bits per second can be sent. So kilo means it is 10 power 3. In memory, usually we say 2 power 10 basically. But here in a network, wherever we'll say kilo, in terms of the bandwidth will represent, then kilo means 10 power 3. 1 mega equals to 10 power 3 kilo, or you can say 1 mega equals to 10 power 6 bits per second, and 1 kilo equals to 10 power 3 bits per second, right? So giga is 10 power 9 bits per second. So 1 giga means 10 power 9 bits per second. Then after giga, then the tera is also there, terabits per second. So these are the units we'll use. So now come to this part. So all links have 1.536 Mbps, right? And each link uses, let us say this network core is a TDM circuit using the circuit switching, and the method of the circuit switching it is using, that is TDM based circuit switched. So each link uses TDM with a 24 slots per second. So one round duration is a 1 second, and in this 1 second time is divided between the 24 slots. So each user will get one slot, right? Let us say each user is getting one slot. So 24 users data can be transmitted simultaneously if the 24 users are there in the network, and then they can send the data simultaneously, right? and each user will get one of the slot out of that. There is a concept of statistical multiplexing also, in which maybe a high priority user we can assign more than one slot also, but let us right now don't go in that part. So we make it simple, one slot per user, right, in a one round. And 500 millisecond is required to establish the end-to-end circuit, and this is setup time basically. Okay, I talk about the setup time. So connection setup time, that is additional. So after once you start the request, then first the connection will establish. So it will take 500 millisecond, and then the data transmission will start. So now can you tell me that how much time it will take to send this file? One last point. So once the circuit is established, let us say on these links, this user have been assigned one slot, and now this user is sending this 640K size this thing. Then the entire all the bits now this entire file will bit by bit it will be transmitted over this link. Okay, and then after that you can say circuit will be terminated, and then means that if this user is not sending, then maybe that circuit can be that resource will be available for some other users, right? So this is the way how it moves. How to calculate that how much time it will take to transmit this file? Anyone wants to respond? They can switch on their microphone and can respond.
Sir, do we need to add the setup time every time we are making the round, or just at the starting?
Setup time is applicable for the start of the you can say file transfer only, not in every round. So it's a one-time job for a given data transfer. Okay. So now in every second, how much you can say so one user will get one slot. So what will be the one user bandwidth in 1 second per second, I say. So 5.36 is a total link capacity. 5.1.536 Mbps is a total capacity. Now a single user, one user is getting only 24th portion of it in a given unit of time, and unit of time is 1 second, right? In this case. So how much? 1.536, this is mega. So mega means 10 power 6. So one slot, how much it will get it? Or I can say the per user bandwidth. Per user bandwidth equals to this. So this will be 64 kbps. In a 1 second, each user will get 64 kbps. So our A user will get 64 kbps. Now the file size is 640K. So that you can say file transfer time will be file transfer time equals to 640. So this is in bits. So the you can say the rate also I need to convert into the bits. So 10K means 10 power 3. So 64 into 10 power 3. So this will give me how much? 10 seconds, right? So these three cancel, and 64, 10. So 10 second. So 10 second is a file transfer time. So what is the total time? Total time to transfer the file. Total time equals to setup time plus the file transfer time plus the so this file transfer time, you can say basically it's a transmit time. You can say data transmit time, or and this is a setup time. So I can say file transfer time or data transmission. Data transmit data transmission time. So this data transmission time, I will add it. So this will be 10.5 seconds. Okay. Any question? Any doubt here? If it is fine, then we can move to the next. Okay. So now, so this is a one way of. So even say similarly, the in a FDM, you can think of that. Okay, how the data. Again, the setup time will be required in FDM also, and the amount of bandwidth which will get is that depends upon the how many divisions have been made for a given link. So if suppose it's a four division, then you have to divide the total link capacity divided by 4 for one user, and then you can calculate that the transmission time, that is the file size which is that user is transferring, divide by the per user bandwidth, and then you have to add the setup time. That setup time is usually it is given means it vary from the network technology to network technology, that how much time it is taking for the file transfer, the setup time. Now the another way of the implementing the network core is that there is no reservation. Let us say no reservation means whenever user have some data, user can send it, that's all. So in that case, what happened that so suppose user have a large file. So this large file will be divided into some chunks, and these chunks we call as a packet. Now, what is the packet size? Okay, again it vary from network, some of the parameters of the network. So right now we are not going because we don't know what is Wi-Fi network, what is Zigbee network, different layer 2 technologies. Right now we don't know. So we don't know because the sizes depend on that. For a given network technology, a specific maximum size of packet can be transmitted. That maximum sizes vary from the network technology to network technology. So right now we can say given a file and it is divided into some n1, n2, n3 number of packets. Fine. And these packets can be maximum size is restricted. Otherwise, minimum it can be even 1 byte, 2 byte packet also can be there. But if every application will try to send, and it also depends upon the application also, that how the application is generating the data. Some application generates huge large amount of data, some application generates small chunks of the data. So then you generate a chunk of 1000 bytes and then immediately a packet is created and send it. Then after some time 1000 byte packet is generated, and that data is generated, and that one packet can be created and that can be sent. Now how to create the packet and all these stuff, okay, we'll see as we'll move to the subsequent lectures. But right now we just understand, let us say file is divided into multiple packets, and for as of now we assume that okay, these each packet size is L bits, okay, all packets of equal size. So that makes our life easy. Okay, now these packets are transmitted into this network. So again here also the same, let us say suppose from this link to the data file is transmitted by this end host, and it is transmitting over this link. This link have a capacity R. R is a link transmission rate. And what is the unit of link transmission rate? BPS, KBPS, MBPS, depends upon what is the rate capacity, maximum capacity. So that rate is given. So then each packet, how much time each packet will take it. So packet size is L bits and the rate is R. So L by R is the time required to transmit the packet. So this is called as a transmission delay. So that is for each packet, right? So like that I have a 10 packets, then I need to transmit 10 packets, then I need to say L by R plus L by R, because the packets are transmitted one by one actually, right? So first packet will be transmitted, then the next packet will be transmitted. So every packet transmission time will be L by R seconds in that case. And suppose from this link, now the this is end host from where the packets are generated. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, one by one these packets will travel on this link. Now here again, this link is terminating on this router. So here the entire packet will be first received here. Okay, entire packet will be received here, means all the bits of that packet. Let's say packet size is 1000 bytes. So all 1000 bytes first received, and then the packet will be processed or transmitted after that. It is not like that, okay, some of the bits are arriving of that packet here and the sum of bits are transmitted of that packet. No, first entire packet has to be received and stored at the node, and then that packet will be, the transmission of that packet will be started. So that's why we call such devices as a store and forward devices. So internet routers are basically follow the store and forward concept. So first packet will be stored, complete one packet. I'm not talking about all the packets will be stored one by one. So my data transfer it in the discrete, means file size can be okay, can be n number of bytes are there. Now individual packet will be created, and then each packet is independently going through this link in the network, one packet, and it uses the store and forward. So that is very important, store and forward. Okay, so if you understood this thing, then let us. So now in a so now what is the benefit of the packet switching over the circuit switching? First of all, there is no reservation is required, means circuit setup is not required. So your circuit setup time is not there. In case of the previous example, we have seen 500 milliseconds circuit setup time was there, that we have to add to the transmission time, first thing. And the second benefit, or we can say another benefit of the packet switching over the circuit switching is, so to understand that we need to consider one example. So say for example, in circuit switching, so between A to B, a circuit is established, right? And some amount of resources there, depends upon how much resource is required for that communication. So some amount of resources is reserved. So let us say the resource reserved is something like that. Same example will take 64 kbps. Okay. Now this A is not sending at that rate. Means it's in place of 64 kbps, its rate is sending rate is 4 kbps only. Then the remaining 60 kbps bandwidth is wasted actually, because this channel is reserved between A and B, and if A and B are not able to utilize completely, means it's a wastage of resources, right? So that can be saved in the packet, because packet switching there is no reservation is there. So whosoever have a data, they can send it. That's all. So the better resource through the packet switching, we can achieve better resource utilization. So that's another benefit is there. Okay, and this is packet switching is why for the internet the packet switching have been chosen, because of the nature of the application on internet, nature of the traffic which we transmit is a bursty, means applications, it's not like continuously sending the data. So suppose you are using your machine is connected to the internet and you start using the internet, means what you will do, you will click some links, either you download some file and then you will silent for some amount of time, then again you will click something. So the data which is generated by the end host in the internet is in a bursty nature. So sometime means for a 2-3 minutes huge amount of data is there, and then after that no use is there. So under that circumstances, or this kind of a traffic generation method, it is packet switching have benefit over the, or advantages is advantageous as compared to the circuit switching, because in circuit switching wastage will be there in such cases, right? So that's the reason why internet is a packet switch network. So that's why now onwards we will talk about only the packet switching. So now to understand that what are the various delay components occur for a packet when it transmit or when it is when we transmit from one end to another end. So you can see in this example or in this picture, this is A host is there, B host is there. Okay, two hosts are connected. So let us say A have some file, and B also have some files. So you means A and B both are sending the data. So A's data is, let us say this yellow is for A and this red one is from B. Okay, just to distinguish. So both are sending, right? So now on this router, so this A is sending A is sending and B both are sending. Now if their sending rate is more than you can say the capacity of this link, then what will happen? The packet, maybe there is a queue of the packet here because the arrival rate is more than the service rate, right? So when when the packet is complete, one packet is arrived at the node, and then after that it will take some time before transmitting that packet. So that time is called as a processing time, or node processing time, or nodal processing time. And usually what processing happens, if we with respect to the internet, we'll say that when packet arrives, then first it will look at that, okay, what is its header, it will look at. So packet have basically data part, and then the header part is there. In header, you know that information is stored about the where this packet needs to be, what is the destination for this packet. So I say that, okay, there's a destination IP address is somewhere stored in the packet, because without that, how the packet will be processed by the nodes, how they will know that, okay, where this packet needs to be sent, forwarded, right? So this header needs to be read, the IP address, destination IP address, it will read, and so it needs to extract that bits which represents the IP destination IP address, and then it needs to look up its forwarding table, that, okay, oh, this is a destination, so where should I forward? I should forward on this link, or I should forward on this link, or I should forward on this link. Let us say this router have connected to other routers also. Okay, you know, in a network it is all they are multiple interfaces are there. So should it forward to this interface, or this interface, or this interface? So accordingly it will, this time basically, that checking time and finding, and then moving that packet from this place to this place, this interface to this interface, through the internal circuitry of the router, that time is called as a nodal processing time. Then, as I said that, okay, if my arrival rate is more than the service rate, then it may happen that, okay, here there is a queue of packets, means the packets are already there. Before a new packet arrives, there are some other packets are already there. So that means a queue is maintained here. So the new packet will come, that will be just stored here. And how many packets it can be stored, that depends upon the size, memory size. So here we call as a buffer, basically. This is called as a buffer. A small memory, usually we represent, we use the term as a buffer. So buffer size tells that, okay, how many packets can be stored, right? So now, and it will wait for its turn. And let us assume that, okay, the FIFO queue is maintained here. So first in, first out, the packet which comes first, that will be first go. So then it will, when you take the first packet which is in the front of the queue, it will take, and then it will transmit. Now, how much time it will take for the transmitting? So that depends upon, this link have a capacity R, packet size is L. So L by R is the transmission time. So this is another next time component, nodal processing. Then the packet may have to, before transmitting, that packet may have to wait for some time. So that is queuing time. And then the packet will take some time, how much time it will take to transmit on the link. So that is depends upon the bandwidth of the link. R is the bandwidth of the link. So L by R, time it will require to transmit. Fine. Now, so in transmission, what happened, that bit by bit the packet will be, you can say, the packet will be available on the link, right? So you can say that, okay, fine. So some of the bits are already there of that packet on the link, and some of the bits are still, means they are coming, because what rate the bits will be laid down on the link is that L by R. It depends upon this much. It will take L by R of time to come the entire packet on the link. And then these bits will propagate. It will start moving from in the link. So let us say this link distance is some d distance is there. Now this propagation or the moving time, propagation time, we call as a propagation time, that movement of the bit from this end to this end. How much time it will take, that time is called as a propagation time. And the propagation time depends upon the distance between these two nodes. So let us say this is R2 and this is R1. So distance between R1 and R2 divide by the speed at which that, because you know that in a wire basically the 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 data means move in the form of signal. So what is speed that this medium in this medium that signal can move, right? So speed d by s. So s is a speed and d is a distance. So now that depends upon the medium. Now medium is wired medium, so different wired as there. Let's say twisted pair is there. Okay, twisted pair. Usually twisted pair is used for the local area network. Then coaxial cable, that's another medium. So in each medium, the velocity of the, or you can say speed of the signal varies, right? Then optical fiber is used for a wide area networking. So these are different kinds of wired medium. Then wireless mediums are also there. Maybe between R1 and R2 there is a wireless medium, right? Usually for all these the speed of the signal varies for all these wired mediums is 2 into 10 power 8 meter per second to 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second, in this range. So the speed is means in this range, and distance depends upon the physical distance. So this much of time it will take to propagate the bits from one end to another end within this link. So this is a propagation delay, right? So what are the delay components? So if I just list down here, the first thing is that node processing time. Node processing is a one component. Then the packet, before transmitting the packet may have to stay in, wait for some time, because there are other packets are there in the queue. So the queuing delay. And the third is the transmission delay. Transmission delay depends upon the bandwidth of the link. R is the bandwidth of the link. Bandwidth of the link. And the fourth and last thing is the propagation delay. And the propagation delay depends upon the medium. Okay. And it is calculated by d by s. D is a distance between the two nodes, and s is the speed. Okay. Now to understand this packet transmission, we'll take this analogy. So let us here, we assume that, okay, there is a carva of 10 cars. There's a group of 10 cars which are means traveling together. So, and there is a toll booth. So this is a toll booth 1 and this is a toll booth 2. The distance between these two toll booths is 100 kilometer, right? Now, and cars are propagating at a 100 kilometer per hour. So here, a single car is analogous to a bit of a packet, one bit of a packet, and this entire group of car, that is karma, is analogous to the packet. So you can say this is a packet of 10 bit in this case. Now let us calculate that how long until this karma is lined up before the second toll booth. Assuming that this toll booth is taking 12 seconds to service a car. So basically the service car, this time is analogous to transmission time. Okay, some of you might be thinking that, okay, why don't it is a processing time? Basically the processing time, you can assume that, okay, in this processing time is also included, because with this analogy we cannot exactly specify the processing time, but I can say that, okay, maybe at a toll booth somebody is means taking some information and then it is passing the car to the to this side of the toll booth. Okay, so you can say this 12 second here. So exactly this processing and the transmission time in this analogy is not distinguishable. So that's why I say that 12 second it takes that first car comes. So first car will come from here to here. It will take 12 seconds. Then second car will come here to here. That will take 12 seconds. So every car will take 12 seconds to come from this side to this side of that, and then it will propagate, right, and reach here. And at the second toll booth, all the car first arrive here, and then only the processing, or you can say the transmission of the each car will start. So this is a notion of store and forward. So entire all the bits should be stored, or all the cars should be stored, because each car represent the one bit of the packet. So the complete packet should be stored first, and then it will be forwarded to the next hop. So come to this answer of this question: how long it will take? How long until the karma is lined up to the second toll booth? How much time it will take? So anyone want to respond? Want to give the answer? So what is the propagation time? Okay, first we'll calculate the propagation. Suppose car is arrived here. From here to here, how much time it will take? 100-kilometer distance. Speed is 100 km per hour.
1 hour.
1 hour or
1
60
hour.
minutes? Yeah. So the propagation time is propagation time is 1 hour. Absolutely correct. 1 hour or 60 minutes. What else? What other time component is there here? That transmission time. One car is taking 12 seconds. 10 car will take 12 seconds into 10, 120 seconds. So it is 2 minutes. So total time will be 62 minutes. So after 62 minutes, the entire karma will be lined up here. It will take 60. Then from the it will start from here. So this analogy is for the packet. Now let us take one different scenario here. Same thing is there. 10 karma of 10 car is there. Now only the speed is that 1000 km per hour. Now the propagation time will be how much? 10 minutes. Right? So every car will take 10 minutes from here to here. Right? So the propagation time for each car equals to 10 minutes. So you know that how to calculate that. Distance is given, and not 10 minutes. I'm wrong. So 1 by 10 multiply with the 60. So 6 minutes. Okay, it's not 10 minutes, 6 minutes. (100 km distance, 100 divided by 1000. So 1 by 10 hour means into 60. So it is 6 minutes. So 6 minutes it will take from here to here. That is a propagation time. Now toll booth now takes 1 minute to service a car. It is taking 1 minute to service the car, one car. So now what will be the scenario? The scenario will be that when the first car will, how much time it will take to reach this toll booth? The first car will take 7 minutes. After 7 minutes, first car will be here. Okay, on this toll booth, first car will be here. So now at 7 minutes, what will be the scenario? At 7 minutes, because 1 minute this car will take to transmit, and then plus 6 minutes it will take for propagation. To total 7 minutes, the first car will be here. Now at that time, so the first car is here, second car is somewhere in between, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh. Total 7 cars are there here, and the 3 cars are still left this side. Correct? So this is the situation in which I was explaining that your packet bits, one packet bits are spread over the entire link, and the few of the bits have reached to the other end, but the some of the when the first bit of the packet is reached at the other end, then some of the bits are still waiting for their transmission at the previous node. This situation is a normal situation. It occurs in the packet switch network, that your packet is transmitting, and some of the bits are, or first bit of the packet is reached to the next hop, but still there are some bits remaining in the waiting for their transmission. Right? So this happens when the propagation delay is less in that case, and your node processing time or the transmission time, it is taking more, right? Due to that, it may happen that so the situation will be your entire packet is spread over the link, and still some bits are left here. Okay, so so the propagation delay is straightforward, that okay, depends upon the medium, the distance between the two nodes, and the speed at which the signal can transmit in the medium. Transmission time depends upon the available bandwidth. Okay, size of the packet divided by the bandwidth. This much of time it will take to transmit the packet on the link. Processing delay depends upon the capability of the node, that how good processing is there internally, how good architecture is there, and even also it depends upon that how quickly the bits can be extracted which requires to process the packet. So that vary from node to node. Okay, that cannot be calculated, means it's not easy to calculate. Then so suppose if I say between so this is node A, and it is connected to this router, and this is router R1, this is router R2, and this is node B. Right? Now, suppose from A to B there are multiple packets are transmitting. So A is sending some stream of packets one by one, right? Which are transmitted. So the first packet which the first packet, the delay observed by the first packet and the delay observed by the second packet, will it same or different? Delay means, when I saying, then all delays you need to consider: processing delay, transmission delay, propagation delay, queuing delay. So total delay is sum of all these four components. So what is my question? My question is, this first packet will observe some delays. Okay, it will transmit it from here to here, and then and these links have some capacity. These have R1, this also a R1. Let us say all links have same capacity. So the amount of delay observed by the first of this packet number 1 and the amount of delay observed by the packet number 2, will it be same or it can be different also?
Sir, packet 2 will experience more delay.
Reason?
Sir, because packet 2 will have to wait for the processing of packet 1 also, and then packet 2 also. But packet 1 will wait only for the processing of packet 1.
So packet 1 is so don't say like that. The packet 1 is waiting for packet 1. Packet 1 means, okay, it is not waiting for anything, na?
Like,
it is
get
immediately processed. Okay, but so your answer is not completely correct. So you need to say that if I say that because so which delay component can vary? So that is due to, as you said, that queuing delay. Propagation delay will be same for all the packets as far as the links are not changed, and if the bandwidth is not changed, then the transmission delay also will be same. And if the nodes are not changed, assuming that okay, each node is taking constant amount of time for every packet to be processed, so that time also will be same processing. So all three components will remain same. Which a component will be different? Can be different. Queuing delay, right? So it is not, but it is not always necessary that the packets, the packet will be means observe the queuing delay or not. Means that we cannot say. It depends upon how the packets are arriving. What is the arrival rate and what is the service rate? So if I say, I take a simple example. If I say how the packets are transmitted from A, in every L by R second, one packet is transmitted. One packet is transmitted. Okay, in every L by R second, one packet is transmitted. And assuming that, okay, my processing delay is processing delay and the transmission delay is processing delay is negligible in that case, suppose. So then what will happen? Will there be a queue here at router R1 or R2? Suppose we'll take under observation this R2. R2 is, so here packets are coming. Every L by R second, this router is getting one packet. Every L by R second. So by the time the first packet is transmitted, second packet will arrive, the first packet will be transmitted. So packet will arrive always at an empty queue, isn't it? So then means there is no queue in that case. So by the time second packet will come, next packet will come, previous packet is already processed. So if this is an arrival pattern, then there will be no queue. But yeah, there is no guarantee that, okay, what is arrival pattern? On the internet, if you say that arrival pattern is a random pattern, there is no as such pattern. Means the packets can come in a random fashion. So if without giving all these details, if someone asks that, okay, if the packets are transmitted, multiple packets are transmitted over the same set of links between the two endpoints, then will they face the different amount of delay? Answer is yes. They may face the different amount of delay because of the variation in the queuing delay, unless until the packet arrival pattern is not given to us. If the packet arrival pattern is given and this is the arrival pattern, then I can say yes. Then all packets will face the same amount of delay, right? So the queuing delay, the conclusion here is the queuing delay can vary for the packets which are transmitted between the two same endpoints and following the same path in the network. Okay, so I think we are running out of time. So I will just 1 minute I will take to just conclude this and then we'll finish it. So now how the queuing delay to be measured actually. So if R is the link bandwidth, suppose on this router I am queuing, I am talking about. So R is the bandwidth and L is the packet length. A is the average packet arrival rate. So then there is a one term that is called as a traffic intensity. So traffic intensity is L into A. It is a ratio of L into A and R. So L into A means L is the number of bits in the packets. A is the arrival rate. So what will it will give? Bits per second. Its unit will be bits per second. R is a bandwidth or the link bandwidth. So this unit is also bits per second only. So it's a ratio basically. It's a constant. LA by R is a constant value, unitless value. So this is first case we'll take. If LA ratio of this or the traffic intensity is greater than 1, then means why the traffic intensity is greater than 1? The arrival rate is more than the service rate. So over the period of time, the queue will be start building up. So building up to the maximum capacity of the buffer, the queue will be built, and after that, any new incoming packet that will be dropped. And the queue will be always there as a maximum full size. It will be there if the continuously at that rate traffic is coming. So your queuing delay will be, and for a large queue, very large queue, the queuing delay for a packet will be kind of a infinite. Assuming that, okay, queue is kind of an infinite queue. Suppose there is no drop, let us say queue is infinite queue. If I consider theoretically, practically it is not possible queue is infinite, but theoretically it can be infinite. So if for infinite queue, my average delay will be, average queuing delay will be, can also be infinite. So that's why LA by R is reaching towards the 1, more than 1, then it will be infinite. Now if the traffic intensity is less than equals to 1, then delay will be large. Delay can be large. Now in a less than equals to 1 case can be like one case can be like this. So it is exactly matching. So periodically packets are coming. Every L by R, you can say every L by R seconds, one packet is coming. Then there is no queuing delay actually. But if the packets are coming like in a burst, so every L by R into N time, there are N packets are coming. N packets are arriving. Then what happened? Simultaneously N packets will be there, so there will be a queue. And then next slot, or you can say next burst of N packets will come after L by R into N. So before the next burst will come, all these packets will be get transmitted, because every packet will take L by R time to transmit. So N packets will get L by R into N time. So once they are all processed, then the next burst will come, right? So if this is arrival pattern, then what happened? Then some average delay will be there. Every packet will face some, or you say first packet will face 0 delay, second packet will face L by R, third packet will face 2 L by R, fourth packet will face 3 L by R, and so on. Depends upon if the N packets are there. So nth packet will be face N minus 1 L by R. And if I average out, then I will get some average delay. Right? So when my traffic intensity value is less than equals to 1, then the delay will become that what is the pattern of the packet arrival. Or if traffic intensity is means almost 0, then the average queue delay will be small. Again, here why the average, if it is traffic intensity is near to 0, means the rate is high and the arrival rate is less, but the packet can come in a burst actually, right? So when a burst of packet comes, then means even the two packets comes together simultaneously, then the first will be transmitted, the second needs to wait at least for L by R of time. So the queuing delay will be small, but if it is near to 1, then the queuing delay is increasing, and when it is crossed the 1, then it becomes infinite. Okay, so I think with this we close this lecture. Just I give one exercise to you. You can just do that. Suppose here this host is sending 5 packets. This host is sending 5 packets. Packet size is, note down this exercise. Packet size is 4000 bits. 5 packets it is sending. Total number of packets. Total number of packets are 5. A is sending, so I can draw like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The capacity or the bandwidth of this link is 10 Mbps. This link also have 10 Mbps. At this switch S, it takes 35 microsecond, 35 into 10 power minus 6 second for processing the packet. Processing the packet. Each packet processing, it takes 35 microsecond. And the propagation delay for both the links, this link as well as this link, propagation delay, that is 20 microsecond, right? Okay. And queuing delay, you need to tell me in this situation whether queue will be built or not. Okay, you need to figure out, and then accordingly you can comment on that. Okay, so the problem is clear. Total number of packets which are to be transmitted from A is 5 packets. Each packet size is a 4000 bits. And these two link bandwidth is, so packet will be transmitted over this link, then here it will be stored, and then after storing 35 microsecond it will take to process it, and then it will start transmitting over this, and then it will propagate here. Now you need to tell two things: how much time it will take to arrive first packet at B, That's the first question. And then same thing for how much time to take for arriving all packets. All means 5 packets. All 5 packets at B. Okay, this you can solve it and post on the channel, the channel in which our lecture is created, right? General channel. Okay. So first 10 entries, I will give some prizes. Whosoever will give the first 10 entries correct answer. Okay. So that will means this question will, if any doubt regarding the packet switching you have, this exercise will help you to understand, and you will be able to sort it out. Okay.